Okay, so let's talk about that feeling. You know the one. When you're like in your 20s, maybe early 30s, and it just feels like everyone else got the life instruction manual and yours is, I don't know, lost in the mail.
Uh-huh. That feeling of being adrift.
Yeah, and you feel kind of alone, but that Reddit post title, I'm having a quarter life crisis, it really hit home for a lot of people, didn't it?
It absolutely did. It shows just how common this whole experience is. It's not just you.
Right. And it's more than just feeling a bit bummed out. That Bradley University online article, it describes it as a real period of uncertainty, lots of questioning, usually mid-20s to early 30s.
Exactly. Feeling stuck, maybe uninspired, or even a bit let down by how things are going. Does any of that sound familiar to you listening?
I bet it does for some. And if you send us these sources, you're probably right in the middle of it or maybe just curious about this whole thing.
So yeah, our plan for this deep dive is to really dig into what you shared. We've got personal stories from Reddit, some expert psychological views, practical tools.
All sorts of stuff.
Right. We want to pull out the key ideas, make sense of these feelings, and maybe offer some paths forward, but, without making it feel like more pressure.
Yeah, definitely don't need more pressure. And we have a great mix. That Reddit post from Rafindapath is so raw. Then there are journaling prompts from Wise Life Therapy and coaching. Those look interesting for transitions. Insights from the book Redirect about changing your own story.
Yeah, the power of narrative. Plus, that Tiny Buddha article on reframing rejection, super useful.
And the Bradley University piece, Defining the Crisis, that Center for Clinical Interventions module on accepting uncertainty.
Yeah.
That feels crucial.
It really does. And the UVA Today article, digging into why the 20s feel so uncertain.
So quite a range.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So our mission really is to weave these together, understand the crisis, look at how people cope, and hopefully offer a bit of direction gently.
Okay, let's get into it. What is this quarter life crisis officially?
Well, the Bradley University definition is a good starting point. It's that time, mid-20s to early 30s, marked by significant uncertainty, questioning the big things in your life.
Like feeling trapped.
Yeah, that's a big one. Trapped in a job, a relationship, just your life path maybe? Feeling uninspired, maybe a bit disillusioned, like, is this it?
And the article mentions specific triggers, right? Things that often kick it off.
Absolutely. Things like, the stress of finding a job, planning a career, maybe living alone for the first time, figuring out all that responsibility.
Right, adulting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Navigating relationships, which can get complicated. And facing those really big long-term decisions that suddenly feel urgent.
It also mentioned phases from the Harvard Business Review. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, 4 phases they identified. First, that feeling of being trapped we talked about, like stuck in your job, relationship, or choices.
Trapped? Then what?
Then often comes a phase of separation or loneliness. This could be literal, like moving or a breakup, or just feeling emotionally distant from friends who seem like they're on totally different tracks.
Yeah, I can see that.
Phase 3 is more about reflection, looking inward, questioning things, maybe deciding, okay, I need to change direction.
So thinking time.
Right. And finally, phase 4 is about exploring, trying new things, meeting new people, maybe looking at different career paths, starting to build something new. And notice, the loneliness or separation often comes before the deep reflection.
Interesting. So feeling a bit isolated might actually be necessary to figure things out.
It seems that way sometimes, creating space for yourself.
It does sound a bit like a midlife crisis, just earlier. And there's that pressure, isn't there? That your 20s are supposed to be the best time, all fun and easy.
Oh, absolutely. That pressure is huge. The article quotes Cyrus Williams, emphasizing how important it is to actually acknowledge these struggles are real, not just brush them off because you're young.
It's okay to not be having the time of your life constantly.
Exactly. It's normal. And that Guardian statistic mentioned, people in their 20s are just as likely to have a crisis as middle-aged folks.
Yeah.
That really drives it home.
Wow. Okay. So it's real, it's common. But what does it actually feel like day to day, that Reddit post? Wow.
Yeah, High and Dasters on Reddit really captured it, feeling totally overwhelmed, hating the corporate grind, the hours, the micromanaging, the politics,
Yeah.
and just no passion for the work, feeling burned out, anxious, plus the money worries on top of it all.
And feeling alone in it, that really came through. Like this panic that doesn't actually help solve anything.
And the comments showed they really weren't alone, did they?
Totally. Loads of people saying, me too, basically. Who did a panini, 420, Lil Rocky, just saying, yep, feeling this at 25. rotund passion fruit with a simple saying.
And the original poster said reading those replies actually lifted a weight, just knowing others get it.
That validation is huge, isn't it? Shifts it from what's wrong with me to, okay, this is a thing lots of people go through.
Exactly. It combats that isolation, which is such a tough part of it.
Okay, so let's talk about uncertainty. It seems like the elephant in the room for this whole stage. The UVA Today article dove into that.
It really did. Meg J's insights there are fascinating. She talks about the overwhelming amount of uncertainty in your 20s. Think about it. You go from school, which is super structured for like 20 years.
Right, clear path, next steps.
To suddenly, boom, adulthood. And the old markers, marriage, house, stable career, they're all happening later now, or differently. There's no set script.
It's like being dropped in a huge open field with no map after walking on a paved path your whole life. Freedom, maybe, but also kind of terrifying.
And our brains don't like that uncertainty. The article mentions the amygdala, our threat detector. It sees unknown and flags it as potentially dangerous. It's an old survival thing.
So that's why your brain jumps to worst case scenarios. It's trying to protect you from the scary unknown.
Pretty much. That what-if loop. And Meg J also made a great point, distinguishing social uncertainty from, like, clinical social anxiety disorder.
Okay, what's the difference there?
Well, feeling nervous, meeting new people, wondering how you're coming across, worrying about fitting in.
Yeah.
That's often normal social uncertainty when you're navigating new adult social worlds. It doesn't automatically mean you have an anxiety disorder, even though diagnoses are increasing.
So it's normal to feel awkward sometimes trying to figure out where you fit socially.
Totally. It's part of learning the ropes.
And then the Center for Clinical Interventions module talks about intolerance of uncertainty. How does that fit?
That's basically when you find uncertainty itself really, really difficult to handle. Like you feel you have to know what's going to happen, you can't stand doubt, and you try to avoid unpredictable situations.
That sounds exhausting. Leading certainty in a world that's just not certain.
It really is. And that intolerance, the CCI module explains, often fuels worry. People think, if I worry enough, maybe I can predict things, maybe I can control it, maybe I'll feel less uncertain.
The worry trap. But does worrying actually make anything more certain? That's the question the module asks, right?
Exactly. It challenges that core belief. Has all that worrying actually changed outcomes? Usually no. It just makes you feel anxious and stressed without actually giving you the certainty you crave.
Right. Okay, so if we know uncertainty is a big part of it, and worrying isn't the answer, what can we do? Let's talk strategies. Those Wise Life therapy and coaching journaling prompts sounded really practical. The puzzle process.
Yeah, that whole approach is about embracing the transition itself. Greg Loy's ideas, they draw on like fruitful emptiness or a rich cocoon phase. It's about seeing this in-between time, not as wasted, but as necessary. A time for things to emerge.
Giving yourself permission to just be in it without having all the answers yet.
Exactly. And the puzzle process uses 14 prompts to help you explore that space. They're designed to get you thinking about different parts of yourself.
Like what kind of prompts?
All sorts. Like what quotes stick with you? What section of a bookstore do you always go to? What topics do you feel like you actually know something about? Who would be your ideal mentor?
Okay, interesting. Kind of digging into your subconscious, maybe?
A bit. It also asks about favorite stories, things you avoid, lives you envy, feedback you've gotten positive and negative, even like weird pulls or pushes you feel that don't make logical sense. And maybe radical things you do if you weren't afraid.
Wow, that's broad.
The idea is to jot down quick answers on separate notes, like Post-its. Don't overthink it. Then physically move them around, group them, look for themes. What messages pop out?
So it's visual. You're literally putting the pieces together.
Right. And that process can help you see your own story more clearly, which connects really nicely to that idea of story editing from the book Redirect. Redirect is all about how tweaking the narratives we tell ourselves about who we are, how things work, can actually lead to real, lasting change. Even small shifts in your internal story can have big effects.
So doing that puzzle process, seeing the themes, that's like step one in identifying the story you're currently telling yourself and maybe where you could change it.
Precisely. You see the current narrative laid out, and then you can start thinking about how you might want to consciously adjust it. Maybe focus on a strength you uncovered, or challenge a limiting belief that emerged.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, another big thing that can knock you off course is rejection. That Tiny Buddha article had a cool take on it.
Yeah, seeing rejection as redirection. That's the core idea, reframing it. Instead of, I failed or I wasn't good enough, thinking, okay, this door closed, maybe it's pushing me towards a different door that's actually better for me.
I like that. There was a quote, wasn't there?
Yeah. Every time I thought I was being rejected from something good, I was actually being redirected to something better. It shifts the power dynamic.
So rejection isn't an endpoint, it's potentially a course correction. How do you actually do that, though, when it stings?
The article suggests 4 tools. First, and this is crucial, self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Talk to yourself like you'd talk to a friend.
Good advice anytime, really.
Definitely. Second, try to see rejection as proof you're pushing your boundaries. If you never get rejected, maybe you're playing it too safe. Growth happens outside the comfort zone.
Okay. Flip the script. Rejection means I was brave enough to try.
Kind of, yeah. Third, don't let it define you. One rejection, or even several, doesn't determine your overall worth or capability. It was just that situation, that time.
Right. Separate the event from your identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And fourth, look for the lesson. What can you learn? Did it reveal something you need to work on? Did it clarify what you don't want? Turn it into fuel for growth.
So actively mine it for insights instead of just dwelling on the disappointment.
Yes. It's about shifting from feeling like a victim of circumstance to being an active learner.
Okay, great strategies, but when you're feeling really lost, how do you actually, start moving, find any direction? The Reddit thread had some ideas there too.
It did. Username 3666N talked about needing some kind of vision or goal. That without it, there's this physiological burden, this real anxiety.
Yeah, I felt that. Like your body knows you're adrift.
Right. And their advice was practical.
Yeah.
Experiment. Try things. Be okay with failing sometimes because that's how you learn. And find a mentor if you can, someone to guide you.
Experiment, fail, learn, get a guide. Makes sense.
And the UVA Today article adds another layer, the importance of work itself. Meg J cited a study showing work experiences can actually drive personality change in your 20s, more than relationships or even having kids sometimes.
Really?
The structure, the challenges, the social interactions at work, they can apparently help young adults become more responsible, agreeable, settled, more conscientious.
Huh. So maybe the pressure shouldn't just be finding your ultimate passion right away. Maybe just engaging with work, building skills is valuable in itself.
That seems to be the idea. Lean into that grace period Meg J mentioned, where people expect you to be learning. Soak up skills, gain experience, even if it's not the forever job. It provides structure and forward movement.
That ties back to the Reddit poster, High Stars, right? Realizing they needed time for hobbies, but also thinking how their project coordinator skills could transfer to something like an art museum job.
Exactly. It's about building on what you have, exploring interest, and not thinking you have to start from absolute zero. And their update showed a real mindset shift too.
Yeah. What stood out there?
The emphasis on self-compassion again. Using tools like journaling or voice memos to process things, and really internalizing that it's okay for your path to be different and that decisions aren't always permanent. You can change course.
That feels so important. Permission to change your mind later. And taking it one day at a time, like user No Mud Way1833 suggested. Small steps.
Yes. Big picture feels overwhelming. Small, achievable goals make it manageable. We also saw other concrete ideas on Reddit, like community college classes or exploring user research, just ways to dip your toe in.
Right. Practical options. And what about tackling that intolerance of uncertainty we talked about? The CCI module had steps for that.
It did, very concrete steps. First, just notice when that urge for certainty pops up. Become aware of it.
Okay, notice it.
Then, try not to react immediately with worry or trying to fix it. Just observe the feeling.
Sit with it for a second.
Yeah. Then, consciously practice letting go of the need for certainty.
Yeah.
Accept that some things are just unknown. It's okay.
Easier said than done, maybe, but okay.
For sure. It takes practice. Then, focus on the present moment. What can you see, hear, feel right now? Ground yourself.
Mindfulness stuff.
Basically, yes. And when your mind wanders back to the what ifs, which it will gently bring it back to the present. Over and over.
So it really is a practice, like building a muscle.
Exactly. It's not a one-time fix.
Yeah.
But gradually, you can lessen the grip that the need for certainty has on you. And that frees up so much energy. Finding direction, ultimately, it's a process. Self-discovery, learning from everything, being patient with yourself.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what are the main things people should take away from this deep dive?
I think first, this whole quarter-life crisis thing, totally normal, super common. You're definitely not alone if you feel lost or questioning things.
That's huge, just knowing that.
Second, Uncertainty is a massive part of this life stage, and learning to tolerate it, even accept it, is a really powerful skill to cultivate. It reduces a lot of the anxiety.
Okay, normalcy and handling uncertainty.
And third, you can be proactive. Things like reframing challenges, seeing rejection as redirection, for instance, and taking small, practical steps towards exploring interests, building skills, reflecting. Those things make a real difference. It's about empowering yourself within the uncertainty.
So for everyone listening, if this conversation struck a chord, remember, these feelings are shared by so many. It's okay. Be kind to yourself through it. Allow yourself to explore, maybe stumble a bit. You don't need all the answers right now.
And maybe a question to sit with is, what's one small story edit you could make in how you're thinking about your situation right now? Just a tiny shift in perspective.
Or what if you looked at the uncertainties you're facing not as roadblocks, but as potential redirections? Where might they be pointing you?
Maybe going back to those Wise Life Journal prompts could be a good concrete step. Or thinking about those tiny Buddha tools for reframing.
Yeah, or even just rereading some of that Reddit thread. Seeing how others are talking about it, supporting each other. There's real wisdom and comfort in those shared experiences.